Hey, what's up, YouTube? Working on a stock frozen brake caliper on a Nissan Altima. If you look here, you can see I can't even move the rotor, can't turn it. E-brakes is down, so the caliper is actually stuck. So a quick check to confirm the caliper is bad. I got a line, a hose on the bleed screw of the brake caliper. I've already have it loosened it, so I'm just gonna twist it out a little bit, unscrew it so the fluid start flowing. I have it pointing in my pan, and then what I'm gonna do next is right in the caliper I'm gonna wedge a small pry bar. So I have it wedged between the rotor and the caliper, and I'm gonna pull forward, and if you look, you're gonna see that the fluid is not moving. The fluid should be coming out, and I'm pulling on it, and the fluid should be coming out because by me pulling on it, then the piston right here, I'm trying to push the piston in by pulling this out, so it should be squeezing the caliper towards me and the piston going in. Once that happens, then you should see fluid running out of your line. If you see that happens but your caliper is still binding up, then suspect the brake hose. But being that there's nothing coming back out, that means the piston in here, everything is all clogged up and the fluid has nowhere to go but stay exactly where it is. So at this point I have a 12 and a 19 mil, and what those are for is the 12 mil is to crack the brake line, the screw, the bolt for the brake line. That's the 12 mil, is to take that off. I'm just gonna crack it loose. I'm not gonna take it off just yet. And then the 19 is for the caliper bracket bolt, which is right here. This the lower caliper bracket bolt, and the upper is that one right there. I have a 3-inch extension on a 19 mil. Just come up, I go in here, it sits right on the lower one, and I'll be able to have my extension, so I'll be able to crack that loose. And once I got that off, then I'll go up top and that's seated right, and I'll do the same for the upper one. Once I take those two off, the caliper and the bracket should come out as one piece. I'll prep the new caliper with the bracket, and I'll prep the line and put the line on the new one. So here I got my 19 mil on a ratchet with my 3-inch extension. I put it on the lower caliper bolt, the bracket that I just showed, and I'm just going to ratchet that off. And I gotta do the bracket also because I tried taking the caliper off. Normally it's just the caliper. Pop the lower bolt and the upper bolt. Someone worked on it before and they stripped the lower bolt, so I wasn't able to get it off. And the auto parts store they sell the caliper with the bracket, so I just opted to get that one. So I got the lower one out, That's the bolt right here. Put that aside. Take my extension off. 3-inch extension. Let's see, this should be better to take this off. So I got it on the upper one. Got the upper one off. They're the same size bolts, just that the lower one has a washer on it. The upper one does not. Reason being, there's a plate that it slides through that holds the ABS wire. So this plate actually acts as a washer. And here you can see I got the whole thing off with the bracket. So I'm leaving the brake line attached for now, and once I prep the new caliper, I'll just take this line off and put it on the new one. That way I'll just have minimum fluid loss. There's actually a tool, a pinch tool. You use it to squeeze the line and it crimps it, but I don't have that, and it's not going to be hanging long enough for all the fluid to leak out, so I'm not worried about that. Now, before I do anything else, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the hood. I'm going to make sure I top off the brake fluid, the brake reservoir. I'm going to actually fill it all the way up with fluid. So once I remove this bolt for the line, whatever fluids that's going to come out, it'll already be in the reservoir. So I'm just going to head up front and do that right now. So up front, I just open the cap for the brake reservoir. I fill it all the way up to the top, put the cover back on. That way no air gets in. So once I take the caliper bolt out, there's no air forcing the fluid through. Once I take it out, it should just, instead of rushing out, it'll just be like a little trickle coming out. So I lose minimum fluid and not lose a whole bunch of fluid at one time. So I'm trying to get the best camera angle I could. Normally I do this on the car, but there are two brass washers, one on the inside, one here, and one up top, and that's the old caliper. On the new one, it comes with the two washers, so the line sits between these two washers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prep the new caliper by taking out the bolt. And here I have the two brass washers, and I have the bolt. So the bolt has a hole that goes through and holes on the side. So put the washer on the bolt. I'm gonna set that aside. The other one, I'm gonna have that, and I'm gonna try to do this as fast as I can so I lose minimum brake fluid. So I already have this loose. So I'm going to back this out. Fluid is going to drain out. Got it off. Take the old bolt out. It's not too much fluid coming out because I have it capped off up top, but it is dripping. Get my new caliper. I got the bolt with the other washer that goes through the line. Clean this washer off. So basically it sits like so on the line. Washer on both ends. There's a hole in the caliper that this notch sits in, so we put it on like so. Once I got it started, and once it's down, make sure the little tab is in the hole, and you just want to torque it down to spec, of course, not too tight, not too loose. I suggest you look the spec up and get an idea. That's good. And now I'll just put the bracket on and put the new brake pads in. So on further inspection, I noticed the pads were completely worn out down to the metal, and on the inside of the rotor it's all chewed up. So this went from a caliper job to a caliper, brake, and brand new rotors. So I got it all sprayed up with some liquid wrench. I got my rotor already cleaned and ready. So now I just gotta bang the rotor. Be careful not to hit the studs, so could tap. Whack the middle between the studs. Pop that off. We look at the inside of the rotor, you could see that's actually a deep groove right here. And that's from this pad, all metal, rubbing against it. I'm just gonna clean this surface up. Just gonna put just a little anti-seize, not much, just to help get it off a little easier. Next time I gotta change it. Now if you're in warmer or hotter climate, you don't have to worry about it, but once you're anywhere within the Rust Belt, East Coast, you want to do something like this. Otherwise, you're gonna have a hard time taking it back off. Here, got the new rotor. I've already cleaned it up with brake parts cleaner. Put that on. That's the new rotor. Now I could put the caliper, put that on, the bracket, and put the brakes on. Now before I forget, there's a hole right here, and there's this rubber plug. Just pop it out from the old rotor, and that's just so you could adjust the parking brake. So you just want to take this plug, put it in, and it pops right in. So at this point, just gotta get my caliper bracket, slide it up, put that plate back on, the bolt with no washer, use that to hold it. The lower one. That on. Oh, about to knock my camera over. Same for the lower. Now I gotta tie the mountain brackets, the two bolts, tighten those to spec. Double check my brake line bolt, tighten that to spec. Then I'll move on to take the caliper off and put the brake pads on. So now I just gotta remove the caliper bolt. I believe that's a 14. Yep, 14. I already have that loose, so take that off. Just the upper one is fine on this car. Got that out. Slide the bracket. Actually swing it towards the downward. Alright, go with the hardware. And they're the same, so there's no upper or lower. Put that in. Just push down on it. The upper one. Press that in. And what I do, I push on the rotor and turn it to make sure it's not rubbing. So I don't hear anything. Now I go for the brake pads. Put the outer. Inner. Once those are in, slide the caliper back up, put that bolt back in. I usually put a little caliper grease on the mounting hardware, but this car doesn't really get a lot of hard usage, so I'm gonna skip that part for now. Want to tighten the bolts back nice and snug. The lower one's already snug. So I have the bracket, the mounting bracket, upper bolt, lower bolt, that's tight. Then I have the brake line hose, that bolt, that's torqued down to spec. These two bolts, lower, upper. Now on the new caliper, the upper is more like a brass looking bolt. The lower is just a regular chrome plated. So I just left it the same way they shipped it. Pretty sure the pin is a little bit different. The upper pin usually have a little rubber on it and the lower one doesn't. Maybe that's why the bolts are different colors. So this is back together, and all I got to do now is bleed the brakes. Now to bleed the brakes, I just need a second person, and I'll get my little hose, see-through it, of course, you can see the fluid going through it. And if I back out, the bleed screw, put the hose on it, let it hang in my bucket. It's two ways to do it. Back it out, leave it like that. It's gonna gravity bleed. It's just gonna, the fluid's just gonna come out and drip in your container. You leave it like that for a while. I normally maybe about a half an hour to an hour. I let it drip while I check the reservoir up front and keep adding fluid. You never want the reservoir to go low. But the faster way to do it is to actually pump the brakes. You pump the brakes maybe 3 to 5 times. But before you do that, you want to make sure this is snug, not tight, just snug. Maybe 2 fingers and snug it up. That's it. Pump the brakes about 5 times. Have someone else do it. Hold the pedal all the way down to the floor. Then just want to crack this loose and the fluid is going to shoot right out. You're going to see shoot out with a fluid and air bubbles. Let that person hold the pedal all the way down to the floor. You're going to snug this back up and repeat the process. Pump 3, 4, 5 times. Release, and the fluid's going to come out. And that's pretty much it for the caliper bracket. Threw in the rotor footage of that, since that was bad also. And just got to bleed the brakes like I said, and all set. So I figured I'll add some of this footage in it. Upon checking, I realized that remember that I had, they call it a one-man bleeder arm kit, and what it is a little reservoir with it has a hose in this cap that goes down in the bottle, and then this line goes to the bleeder valve. And the way it works is there's a little magnet on the bottle. You put some brake fluid in the bottle, and you can see 2 tones right here. I have put some clean one in the bottom, just enough to where that hose that's inside here that goes straight down is covered, at least covered. The hose is sitting in it. So a little brake fluid. Then I run this hose to the bleeder valve. I open the bleeder valve, attach it to it, and once it's like that, all I gotta do now is go in, pump the brakes a few times. You should see air bubbles in the line. I'm gonna keep checking the reservoir up front just to make sure it's not running low. So I'm gonna pump the brakes, and hopefully you guys will see that. Pump it maybe 3 times. And hopefully you guys saw some bubbles coming out of it, or see the bottle now is at least 2/3, and it was all the way here. So I'll just keep doing that, fill the reservoir, and once you do that, then come back and I just tighten this bleed valve again. Probably gotta twist the bottle with it just to get it tight. And there's one bubble right here. It's hard to see, but right there in the line. So I gotta do it some more. I just checked the fluid in the reservoir. Had to add some more. I'll repeat this process maybe 3-4 times. Nice clean fluid coming out. I see no bubbles. I'm pretty sure that's it, but I'll empty this. Try again. So I just want to take the magnet off. Want to tighten. So snug this up. Once I remove this, all my line fell off, but let's see, let's pull it out. Okay, so this is a cheap one, so I'm pretty sure there are much better ones out there. But you could see here, put that on, and once you screw the bottle on, then you can see the hose sits in the brake fluid in the bottom. Put that back on. Loose the bleed screw. Okay, got it loose. And you could I'm probably gonna upgrade this and put clamps on it. That way I don't have to worry about it slipping off. But I got the bleed screw loose. I got the line inside, the hose sitting in the fluid. Give it another maybe 4 or 5 pumps. But before I do that, I'm going to check the reservoir. Make sure that's still full. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come back, check. Yeah, I see no bubbles. The bottle is full. So I'm pretty sure that is it. So please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.